My name is host Eric, and we are on GTM. We're doing Socionics Intertype relationships between the INTP and ENTJ personality types. As you see here on this video, I've got it set up so that you can see their stacks next to my face, which is right where you want to see anyone's stack. And you'll see TI, TE, NE, NI, SI, SE. Everything's opposite. So if you have this kind of relationship between two people, if somehow, let's say you're in India and your parents have arranged a marriage for you, and your arranged marriage, you're an INTP, and your arranged marriage is with an ENTJ. And you never met her before, you show up, you go, "Hey honey, hey, it's me, it's INTP, I'm here. What's going on?" The chore wheel's on the refrigerator. You can, I've left it blank, you can make the first choice. Honey, sweetie, darling, I've got Sweet Talk scheduled for 9 p.m., Harold. You go in there and check that chore wheel. I anticipate the INTP-ENTJ relationship. Well, okay, look, the INTJ-ENTP relationship is fine. We get along fine. I don't know if we could be married to each other, though. That seems unlikely. I'm not sure why exactly. Well, I'll have to think about that when we get to that relationship. But it's the equivalent of this one. And yet, I don't see it as... What's arrogance? The INTJ ENTP would be an argument every day, every hour of every day. Well, regardless of our definition of narcissistic, the INTP ENTP relationship works out fine as long as it's not intimate at all. As long as you don't get too close, because when you get too close,
wait, wasn't it ENTJ?
Yeah, I was responding to a chat thing. You guys sidetracked me with your chit chattiness. All right, so anyway, let me go back on point. INTP ENTJ is going to be a relationship that is, I think, doomed to failure, even though in a lot of ways they should get along fine. So TI is going to naturally trust TE. Kunkel and Zachary got along fine. In fact, he liked Kunkel quite a bit, and they vibe with each other because of that 5 thing. Each has the other's dominant as their 5th, and that tends to make you want to be friends with them. But NE and I then, okay, well, now here's another one where we're opposite. Except now it's in the 2nd slot, so it's not quite so friendly as it is if it's in the dominant slot. If you're in the dominant slot, it's like your two countries almost overlap a little bit. In the 2nd slot, you respect what they're doing, but it's not a tool you're familiar with at all. And, it's kind of like, no thanks, I'll use my NE. And they're like, no thanks, I'm using NI over here. Whereas on the T's, they're both like, oh, I really like the way you think differently. Because they're so by nature their own T that they don't feel any need to defend it. And then in the 3rd one, SI, SE, this is their role functions. So, okay, INTP is supposed to be keeping track of shit, but they're not really that good at it because they don't know how to act. ENTJ is supposed to be driving the action, but they're not actually that good at acting and pulling the trigger on shit because they aren't good at all at understanding themselves and their identity over the course of time. Even though they're good planners, that's because of the TE. The actual action, the actual conversion of the action that they take and the planning into a sense of self that extends over time should be poor, I would suggest. And that they're organized, which you would never expect with SI in the 7th slot, but they're not they're organized about where they're going to go and what they're going to do and stuff like that. And they're organized to the extent that they're getting stuff done. But I suspect that if an ENTJ is left sitting alone doing nothing for a while, they have no idea who they are and how their identity plays out over the course of their life. So I have this weird thing with nostalgia, and that's because SI is in my 4th. Well, if it's in their 7th, they don't even understand what it is. A sense of your identity being in 4 dimensions. So anyway, the INTP does understand that very well, however, and that's going to be a problem for them, is that they're looking to make complete sets. In other words, action that creates significant meaning. But the ENTJ is specifically taking action in a meaningless kind of a framework because they don't have that SI sense of self that the INTP does over time. And in fact, the INTP projecting that sense of self over time, projecting the notion that they are an identity that is on a track, has purpose, is purposeful, a purposeful identity. Not just purposeful action, but a purposeful identity. That's the thing the INTP is projecting out into the world. That's the thing the ENTJ fundamentally doesn't get or understand at all. And vice versa. The ENTJ is using their full function to put a handle on shit all the time. Getting shit done. They're going to get mighty frustrated with that INTP if they try to work with him or her on anything together. Because they have expectations of predictability, not just of productivity. And that's where the problem's going to lie, is that INTP is not that predictable at all. And if they are predictable, they're predictably going through spells of inactivity. So that's not going to make ENTJ happy, because even though they're predictably going through the spells, the actual spell itself, the time duration, when it's going to occur, stuff like that, is not predictable, and it's going to hinder ENTJ's ability to work, to operate in the world as they wish. However, I will say this, as I mentioned before about Kunkel and Zachary. If you pair an ENTJ and an INTP together on a work project where they're both at work and they're going to be getting work done, then they'll be great. If neither of them is the boss. If they both are, if the boss is an ENTP, they'll get along fine. And that's my thoughts on ENTJ and INTP. Thoughts from the viewing audience. Okay, well, that will bring this video to a close. Thank you so much for watching. Those of you at home, I want you to march right into that kitchen right now and cut yourself off a big hunk of cheese and enjoy that cheese. You deserve it. Thanks a lot for watching.